Hey everybody, Jeff Miller here from Target Test Prep. We get a lot of students who are up against it and they want to improve quick. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how you can improve your GRE verbal score in just 1 week. All right, to start, let me tell you that 1 week is a short amount of time. I think we all know that, especially for your GRE prep, especially if you have other things going on in your life besides your GRE prep. Now, if you only have a week, there are things you can do. We'll see how far you can get, but if you find that it's impossible, hey, take the test after a week. If you have to regroup and re-strategize for a longer strategy, that's fine. But we're going to talk about some tips, starting with this. First tip is you got to learn about the GRE verbal section. If you're brand new to the GRE, you've never studied before, well, what do you need to do? You need to sit down and look at the 4 sections. You have sentence equivalence questions. Look at how those function. Look at how to answer them. You have text completion, same deal there. Critical reasoning, reading comprehension. If you don't know those question types or how they act or function, you're already dead in the water. So get those down. That's your first step to learning GRE verbal. Step 2, and I tell this to anyone in this situation, you got to take a practice exam. You got to see where you're at. If you say, hey, I need a verbal 150 and I have a week, take that practice test because you want to see, am I close? Am I above it? Am I below it? Look, if you score a 140 and you just have a week, it's probably going to be tough to move it up to that 150. But if you get a 147, okay, you're in the ballpark. Even better, if you get a 153, it means, okay, I'm just going to do some prep and I'm going to hopefully maintain that 153 or move higher. But to see where you're at, take the first official GRE practice exam, get that baseline score, and then you can start to evaluate what you can do in just 1 week. Tip number 3, analyze your test results. Can you make heads or tails of how you're doing in each verbal question type? Are you better in text completion and sentence equivalence because you feel like you have a strong vocabulary? Or are you better in analyzing arguments and critical reasoning or reading through longer passages and reading comprehension? Any way you slice it, you got to figure that out because you only have 1 week and you want to focus your time wisely on the areas that need the most help. So going through that practice exam, spend as much time as you need to analyze what's going on, and then you can make decisions on how to prep from there. Step 4, and this might be a little different from what you hear from me normally, where I say do a lot of topical learning and practice, but because you have a week, I want you to do mixed practice. That means do different verbal questions in one sitting. We want to do this because it's going to help us with how things are going to appear on the actual GRE. So you're going to be learning, you're going to be finding weak areas, but you're going to be putting yourself in a position that's similar to how test day will go. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And just like you did with your practice exam, when you're done with that mixed practice, you go back, you hyper-analyze it. Where am I weak? Where am I strong? Focus on the areas that need the most attention because again, you just have 1 week until your GRE. 5, work on vocabulary as you go. We do say that we want you to learn a lot of GRE vocabulary words to do well in GRE verbal, but you don't have time to learn thousands and thousands of words. So what you can do is within the realm of your practice, within the scope of your practice, when you get something wrong, if it's vocabulary based, learn that word and learn the context of how and why you got it wrong. It's not just enough to learn the word in a vacuum. You've got to learn it within the context of the problem you got it wrong in. And then when you have time, try to learn as many new vocab words as you can, but also work on your execution of how and when you're using these words, right? Knowing definitions is great, but knowing how to use vocab words within the context of a sentence or a paragraph is what's going to really allow you to excel in any vocab-based questions. And this is a great way to improve your vocabulary just within 1 week. My final tip, do time practice and take a few more practice exams. You took 1 at the beginning, you're going to do a lot of mixed practice throughout, but then as you get closer to test day, maybe 36 hours, even 48 hours, which normally I don't recommend, but because you don't have a ton of time, take a few more practice exams so you can be test ready. If you're close to your score goal, that's a great sign, means you have a really good shot on test day. Obviously, don't overdo things on the day before your exam. If you're far from your score goal, well, that's a different story. You can take it anyway, but you may have to regroup and retake following the exam. In conclusion here, or to conclude, remember, this is just a week. It's very difficult for a lot of people to make this headway in that short amount of time. So do the best you can. There's no sense in not trying if you really need to do it. Follow some of these tips, and hopefully we can get you to that GRE verbal score goal.